Welcome back to PhiloByts. Today we meet the most famous philosopher of the 20th century, the man who made philosophy feel immediate and unavoidable, who turned Paris cafes into intellectual battlegrounds and forced modern humanity to confront the unsettling truth of its own freedom. Today we talk about Jean-Paul Sartre. Jean-Paul Sartre was born in Paris in 1905. His father died when he was still a baby, and he was raised largely by his grandfather, Charles Schweitzer, a German Alsatian intellectual who ran a school of modern languages. Sartre was brilliant, but physically unremarkable, small, cross-eyed, and by his own account, unattractive. Still, his intellectual presence was anything but ordinary. He studied philosophy at the École Normale Supérieure, where he met Simone de Beauvoir, who would become his lifelong companion, intellectual equal, and partner in one of the most famous open relationships in intellectual history. Many considered de Beauvoir at least his equal and sometimes the sharper thinker. Sartre taught in provincial schools, spent a year in Berlin studying Husserl and Heidegger, and published his major philosophical work, Being and Nothingness, in 1943 during the German occupation of Paris. He was also involved in the French resistance, though the extent of his role remains debated. After the war, he became a global intellectual celebrity, the face of existentialism, writing philosophy, novels, plays, and political essays, while constantly appearing in public debates and cafes. In 1964, he refused the Nobel Prize in Literature, saying he did not want to become an institution. He died in 1980, followed by tens of thousands through the streets of Paris. At the center of Sartre's philosophy is one sentence: existence precedes essence. Traditionally, philosophers believed that human beings had a fixed essence, a nature or purpose defined before they exist. A knife is made to cut, a tree grows according to its nature, and a human being, in this view, is created with a predefined purpose. Sartre rejects this completely. There is no God, no blueprint, no fixed human nature. We simply exist first, and only afterward do we define ourselves through our actions. You are not born with an essence, you construct it through living. This idea is both liberating and disturbing. Liberating because you are not determined by your past, your biology, or your social position. Disturbing because there is no external authority to tell you what you are supposed to be. Everything falls on you. From this follows Sartre's famous claim: human beings are condemned to be free. Freedom is not a gift but a condition of consciousness. And this freedom produces anguish because once you realize there is no fixed path, you also realize that every choice is entirely your responsibility. There is no hiding behind necessity. Even saying I had no choice is, for Sartre, often a form of self-deception. This self-deception is what Sartre calls bad faith. Bad faith is when we lie to ourselves about our freedom by pretending we are determined by external roles or circumstances. The waiter who behaves as if he is nothing but a waiter, the student who defines herself entirely through grades, the person who says, "That's just who I am," to avoid change. All of this is bad faith. It is the attempt to turn oneself into a fixed object in order to escape responsibility. To explain this, Sartre distinguishes between two modes of being. Being in itself is the mode of objects: a rock, a table, a hammer. They simply are what they are, complete and fixed. Being for itself is the mode of consciousness. Human beings are never fully identical to themselves. They are always aware of possibilities, always projecting what they could become. Consciousness is defined by this gap between what we are and what we are not yet. Because of this, we are never complete. We are always becoming, always unfinished, always able to negate what is and imagine something else. This is why Sartre describes consciousness as a kind of nothingness within being. Not non-existence, but the ability to step back from reality and say this could be otherwise. But this freedom is not comfortable. It produces what Sartre calls nausea, the experience of confronting the raw contingency of existence. Things simply are, without deeper necessity, and this realization can feel disorienting, even overwhelming. Freedom is also shaped by other people. When someone looks at you, they do not experience your freedom directly. They see you as an object, as a student, a worker, a failure, an intelligent person. This is what Sartre calls the look of the other. Through the gaze of others, we are fixed and defined in ways we cannot fully control. This creates tension. I experience myself as a free subject, but others constantly turn me into an object, and I do the same to them. This struggle between subject and object is what gives Sartre's famous phrase its meaning: hell is other people. Not because people are simply unpleasant, but because we are trapped in a world of mutual objectification where we define and are defined by each other. In his later thoughts, Sartre extends existentialism into politics. He argues that freedom is meaningless if social conditions make it impossible to exercise it. You cannot ignore colonialism, poverty, or oppression and still talk seriously about human freedom. He becomes deeply involved in left-wing politics, supports anti-colonial movements such as the Algerian struggle, engages with Marxism, and participates in the intellectual energy of the 1968 student uprisings. For Sartre, philosophy must be engaged, it must act in the world. Sartre's influence is massive. His plays like No Exit, novels like Nausea, and philosophical concepts like bad faith, authenticity, and the other's gaze have shaped literature, psychology, and political thought. His ideas also deeply influenced Simone de Beauvoir, who developed existentialism into a foundational framework for feminist philosophy. At the core of Sartre's philosophy is a demanding message. You are free and therefore responsible. You cannot blame your nature, your past, your society, or your circumstances for what you become. You are your choices, and you remain so until the end. This is terrifying, but also, for Sartre, the highest form of respect for human beings. The recognition that you are not fixed, not determined, and always capable of becoming something else. Thank you for watching PhiloByts. Next time, Simone de Beauvoir, who transforms existentialism into one of the most powerful analyses of freedom, gender, and oppression ever written.